The abbey was founded in the 8th century and enlarged in the 10th. It was destroyed by a major fire in 1184, but subsequently rebuilt, and by the 14th century was one of the richest and most powerful monasteries in England. The abbey was suppressed during the dissolution of the monasteries under King Henry VIII of England. The last abbot, Richard Whiting, was hanged, drawn and quartered as a traitor on Glastonbury Tor in 1539. From at least the 12th century, the Glastonbury area has been associated with the legend of King Arthur, a connection promoted by medieval monks who asserted that Glastonbury was Avalon. Christian legends have claimed that the abbey was founded by Joseph of Arimathea in the 1st century. Suggestions that Glastonbury may have been a site of religious importance in Celtic or pre-Celtic times are considered dubious by the historian Ronald Hutton, but archaeological investigations by the University of Reading have demonstrated Roman and Saxon occupation of the site. The abbey was founded by Britons and dates at least to the early 7th century. Dark Age occupation of the site is evidenced by pieces of ceramic wine jars that were imported from the Mediterranean. Glastonbury fell into Saxon hands after the Battle of Pienham in 658. Saxons under Cynwalh of Wessex conquered Somerset as far west as the River Parrett, perhaps with the intention of gaining control of the abbey. Cynwalh allowed the British abbot, Bregard, to remain in power, a move perhaps intended as a show of good faith to the defeated Britons. After Bregard's death in 669, he was replaced by an Anglo-Saxon, Bertwald, but British monks remained for many years. King Ian of Wessex enriched the endowment of the community of monks established at Glastonbury and reputed to have directed that a stone church be built in 712, the foundations of which formed the west end of the nave. A glassworks was established at the site during the 7th century. The abbey church was enlarged in the 10th century by the abbot of Glastonbury, Dunstan, the central figure in the 10th century revival of English monastic life, who instituted the Benedictine rule at Glastonbury. He also built the cloisters. Dunstan became Archbishop of Canterbury in 960. In 946, King Edmund was interred at Glastonbury. In 1016, Edmund Ironside, who had lost England to Canute but held on to the title of King of Wessex, was also buried there. The medieval Glastonbury Canal was built about the middle of the 10th century to link the abbey with the River Brue, a distance of about 1.75 kilometers, 1,900 yards. Its purpose is believed to have been to transport stone to build the abbey, but later it was used to transport produce, including grain, wine and fish, from the abbey's outlying properties. From the 11th century, the abbey was the center of a large waterborne transport network as further canalizations and new channels were made. At the Norman conquest in 1066, the wealth of Glastonbury made it a prime prize. William the Conqueror made Turstinus a Norman abbot there in 1086. Turstinus added to the church, unusually building to the east of the older Saxon church and away from the ancient cemetery, thus shifting the sanctified site. This was later changed by Helwyn, the next abbot, who built a larger church. Not all the new Normans were suitable heads of religious communities. In 1086, when the Domesday Book was commissioned, Glastonbury Abbey was the richest monastery in the country. In 1184, a great fire at Glastonbury destroyed the monastic buildings. Reconstruction began almost immediately, and the Lady Chapel, which includes the well, was consecrated in 1186. Pilgrim visits had fallen, and in 1191 the alleged discovery of King Arthur and Queen Guinevere's tomb in the cemetery provided fresh impetus for visiting Glastonbury. Historians today generally dismiss the authenticity of the find, attributing it to a publicity stunt performed to raise funds to repair the abbey, which was mostly burned in 1184. The fact that the search for Arthur's body is connected to Henry II and Edward I, both kings who fought major Welsh wars, has had scholars suggest that propaganda may have played a part as well. In 1197, Sir Varick Fitzgeldwyn, Bishop of Bath and Wells, traded the city of Bath to the king in return for the monastery of Glastonbury. Sir Varick secured the support of Pope Celestine III for the takeover of the abbey as the seat of his bishopric, replacing Bath. The plan was that Sir Varick would be Bishop of Bath as well as Abbot of Glastonbury. The monks of Glastonbury objected to Savaric's plan and sent an appeal to Rome, which was dismissed in 1196. But King Richard, no longer imprisoned in Germany, sided with the monks and allowed them to elect an abbot, William Piker, in place of Savaric, who responded by excommunicating the new abbot. With the succession of John as king in place of his brother Richard in 1199, Savaric managed to force his way into the monastery and set up his episcopal see within the abbey. The monks appealed to Innocent III, the new pope. At first, Innocent took the side of the monks and lifted Piker's excommunication. Innocent had changed his mind and reinstalled Savaric as abbot, ordering some English clergy to judge the specifics of the case and allot the revenues of the abbey between Savaric and the monks. Savaric then attempted to secure more control over other monasteries in his diocese, but died before he could set the plans in motion. In the 14th century, only Westminster Abbey was more richly endowed and appointed than Glastonbury. The abbot of Glastonbury kept great estate, now attested to simply by the ruins of the abbot's kitchen, with 4 huge fireplaces at its corners. It is one of the best preserved medieval kitchens in Europe and the only substantial monastic building surviving at Glastonbury. Archaeological excavations have revealed a special apartment erected at the south end of the abbot's house for a visit from Henry VII, who visited the abbot in a royal progress, as he visited any other great territorial magnate. At the start of the dissolution of the monasteries in 1536, there were over 850 monasteries, nunneries and friaries in England. By 1541, there were none. More than 15,000 monks and nuns had been dispersed and the buildings had been seized by the crown to be sold off or leased to new lay occupants. Glastonbury Abbey was reviewed as having significant amounts of silver and gold as well as its attached lands. The abbey was stripped of its valuables and Abbot Richard Whiting, who had been a signatory to the Act of Supremacy that made Henry VIII the head of the church, resisted and was hanged, drawn and quartered as a traitor on Glastonbury Tor on the 15th of November 1539. The great church was 220 feet, 67 meters, in length and 45 feet, 14 meters, wide. The choir was 155 feet, 47 meters, long and the transept was 160 feet, 49 meters, long. St. Joseph's Chapel was 110 feet, 34 meters, long and 24 feet, 7.3 meters, wide. The Lady Chapel, from which the walls survive, was described in 1478 as being 34 yards, 31 meters, in length and 8 yards, 7.3 meters, wide. The abbot's kitchen is described as one of the best preserved medieval kitchens in Europe. The 14th century octagonal building is supported by curved buttresses on each side leading up to a cornice with grotesque gargoyles. Inside are 4 large arched fireplaces with smoke outlets above them, with another outlet in the center of the pyramidal roof. The kitchen was attached to the 80 feet, 24 meters, high Abbot's Hall, although only one small section of its wall remains. The ruins of Glastonbury Abbey were purchased by the Bath and Wells Diocesan Trust in 1908. The ruins are now the property of and managed by the Glastonbury Abbey Trust.